Um, where do I begin? Dean and I met, everybody knew him by Dean. If you knew him by Dean, not Daryl. We met at a very young age. I was 17, he was 21. We got married. We were married almost 35 years when he passed. He was the type of person who was selfless. If someone needed something, if someone needed help in any way, he was there. His father was in the fire service. A couple of his brothers were, and that's what brought him to it. He came to it a little later in age because he was a police officer and he was in the service, and so he did several things before he came to the fire department. Very dedicated. If something was going on at the station, he was at the station. If something needed fixed at the station, he was fixing it. So the chief really counted on him. Him and one of the other guys were like his go-to guys for anything that broke. If there was a call, even if we were out to dinner or with friends or whatever, the call was what was important, and he got up and he left and went to do what he had to do. He loved firefighting, and he died doing what he loved. And that's one of the things that makes it easier, because he wouldn't have had it any other way.
So his shoes are hard to fill. I actually work where he actually got me my job that I have now. I got out the Army after 6 years. Was kind of worried about a job, so he kind of helped me link up with a job out at the chemical plant, and I can't go anywhere in that plant without somebody telling me they know him. Yeah.
Brandon, how about you?
So some of my biggest memories, I was always Daddy's little helper. Whenever he would have something to do, I'd be tagging right along with him and go somewhere and walk into a store, and you're going to stop for at least 30 minutes while he talks to somebody, because he knew everybody knew him. He was the type of guy who was super friendly, always willing to give the shirt off his back to help anybody who ever needed it, and everybody respected him and knew that. And growing up, all the kids were always like, "Oh, you have the cool parents." Like, he was always the type of guy that everyone wanted to come to when they needed something.
So my mom told you already that they got married at a very young age. So they've been married 35 years. I'm 34. That'll let you know I had that same opportunity to grow up right alongside him. So in many cases, my dad was my best friend. The best man at my wedding. I wouldn't have had it any other way. The most endearing, loving, caring individual that you will ever meet, and a hero of all heroes. Like I said, he spent his whole life serving people. He would give you the shirt off his back, even if he was going to be cold and it was the last one he had. That's just the kind of guy he was. Completely selfless, and like I said, just my absolute best friend in life.
The fire service, when he first joined, I thought, okay, here we go. Another thing that's going to take him from the house, and he's not going to be home. And the more we got to know the people, the more I realized that this was a brotherhood, and these people care about each other, and they love each other. And then when he passed, I met firefighters from all over the country and all over the state came to his service, and he had touched so many people's lives, and I didn't know about it. And I realized how important fire service is to our family now. There are a lot of people that I can call, no matter what time of the day or night it is, that are there for me and my kids. I would want people to remember how loving he was, because if you got to know him or you met him, you immediately felt that.
I think volunteer firefighters are truly America's unsung heroes, because these are guys that have families and lives and other things going on. And I would see my dad come home from a long day's work, working 12 hours out in the plant a day, or 10 hours, and come home and get a call and be out till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and come home, shower, change clothes, and go right back to work and carry on with his regular day's duty. And then come home at the end of that day to spend time with his family, because he didn't get to spend time with them the night before. And it's really hard, and I don't think enough people give those guys enough credit for the sacrifices that they make for their family. And then we have a situation like this where my dad gave the ultimate sacrifice for his community, and I just want people to know and that's my feeling now. When I see a volunteer firefighter, I'm going to shake his hand. I'm going to shake his hand. I'm going to tell him thank you for what you do, because I know what your family goes through to have you be here.
So I'd say mine's pretty close. When he first joined, I thought, this is going to be one of those things where he gets pulled away, a hobby, something like that people did. Because especially when it's a volunteer force, you don't realize what it is until you need it. So it's kind of in the back of the mind. Everyone always thinks of law enforcement, military, things like that. They don't ever think about the fire service. And then after something like this happens and you realize the brotherhood that they have, what they're willing to do to help people. After my dad passed, I know a volunteer firefighter in the Hamptons, at West Hampton, and he knows how much my son idolized my dad, and he wants to be a firefighter and everything. That's what he's going to be for Halloween. And he told everyone in his department about it, and they pitched in everything, like gave him a helmet, gave him stickers, gave him all this stuff, sent him a whole box of things, flashlights to put on his helmet so he could be official, and he loved it. And they made him an honorary firefighter at West Hampton, and that was the coolest thing. So being able to see how these guys are role models and how they should be looked up to, just like people look up to the military nowadays, the volunteer firefighters deserve that same sort of respect.
For me, it was seeing, how much of a family they were. My daughter idolized my dad. She loved him. That was easily her favorite person. And when he passed away, she, every time she gets to go to the firehouse, see all the guys again, she gets excited, and it's like she has a bunch of new grandpas. And that's how she looks at them, like family. And they're there for me. If I need something, they know if it's something my dad would have done, they're there for me.
Well, our community is very small. Our population was about 3,500. We had a very small department. And so to lose one, the very first one ever in the history of the service, hit a lot of our firefighters very hard. It changed kind of the dynamic, because my husband was kind of the joker that kept everybody smiling and laughing, and you could just see a difference. You could feel a difference when you walked into the room that there was something missing. And I think that it affected a lot of people a lot more than anybody would realize. The whole community, people, like I said, people I never even knew that he knew, came up and told me how he touched their lives. So it affected our community in a good way, in that it brought it together again, but in a bad way because there was something missing.
And I think the big sign for how it affected the community was at a service when we were doing the procession, and just the insane amount of cars that were behind us for miles. Everybody turned out, everybody was there. It was literally like a 2-mile long procession of cars. So
It's longer than that.
yeah,
I thought it was the president rolling through there.
they shut down everything for it. So
Because we drove through 2 cities, and by the time the family's front vehicle and my dad made it to the funeral home that we were putting him to rest at, there were people still leaving the church 2 towns over in the funeral procession, still coming over. So it was a long one. And, that lets us know that, I guess you never know your legacy until you go. And you could see the legacy that he left and how many people he touched, because I've never met so many people in my life, and he knew everybody. Everybody knew him, and he knew everybody. And so everybody in the community lost a best friend.
We had to change churches because we had too many people.
Yeah.
We had to hold his funeral at a bigger church because there was just too many. There were people from all over the state that all different fire departments. I mean, the line behind us of just emergency vehicles, I couldn't even see the end of that. Even when we went over the bridge, I mean, I looked a mile back and I still saw emergency vehicles. So I don't even know how long the real line was.
You feel really special
Yeah.
when you walk off the plane and there's 6 people there to greet you and 3 that were inside the terminal to walk through with you. It's amazing. I mean, I kind of had an idea of what it would be like because I go to the convention and everything, you know, but to see the amount of love and compassion and the number of people that are here, it hurts my heart for the number, but it also makes me feel good to see that there is so much support for the families and the wives and, you know, the mothers and the fathers. It just, the support and the love is just outpouring.
I think since we've been here at the Firefighters Memorial Weekend, I've noticed that like everybody that wears the same lanyards around their neck are like we've known them our whole lives. There's no strangers in the room. We were sitting downstairs having something to eat, and there was a couple behind us, and you know we hadn't talked to them. They found out we were from Texas. They were from Texas, and then we began to share our stories about our firefighters together. And, we sat at a table tonight at a dinner with people that we've never met in our lives, and we laughed and we loved and we had a good time, and you know they all share in the same pain that we feel. And so it's nice to be able to come into a room and everybody knows how your heart feels. Everybody knows what you're going through, and they know that you're hurting, and it's okay to hurt. Because when we first walked in, I cried my eyes out, and a guy came down there, grabbed me around the neck and hugged me, said, hey, everybody wearing a red shirt has been here exactly where you are right now, and if you need to cry, now's the time to do it and just let it out, and nobody's gonna judge you. So to be here with all these people that feel with you, that love with you, and to make all these new friends, this has been, in one night, the most amazing experience I've had.